On a quiet walk through West London, I stumbled across something truly extraordinary.
I'm Seth. I'm at my garden. It's called Bloomtide. It's like a big canvas. To me, well, this is like where I settled in when I first came to London 25, 30 years ago. I settled here, Hammersmith and Fulham.
Do you get any help from the council at all to help?
Hammersmith and Fulham Council?
Yeah.
The council wants us to vacate this property and take our plants, our ideas, etc. and go. So I'm to blame for the delays of the construction of the Hammersmith Bridge. Is that fair to me?
All this guy's doing is trying to make people's lives a little bit sweeter.
It's an upgrade of this part of Hammersmith rather than a downgrade of it.
They are supposed to be elected by the people to represent the people, but they are fighting against the people and what the people want. It's a land grab, and it's based on the assumption that whatever I have is theirs for the taking. You gotta make some concessions and give us some power.
Hi and welcome to the SohoLIFF Spotlights. I'm Liz Farahadi and I am delighted to be joined today by Louis Catliff.
Hello.
Hello, who
Hi.
is here with a really fabulous film called Bloomtide. Love Bloomtide and love Seth.
Yeah, we all love
But,
Seth.
oh, who doesn't? But for anyone here watching this, without giving anything away, could you tell us a little bit about your film?
Sure thing. So Bloomtide is a half-an-hour documentary that follows a man called Seth El Shaddai, who was living in kind of the West London area, and over kind of last summer, June 2023, Seth had built this incredible garden on an abandoned slipway down into the Thames, right between Riverside Studios, where they kind of filmed Doctor Who back in the day, and Hammersmith Bridge, one of the oldest suspension bridges in the world. So it was amid kind of in between these two very historic kind of landmarks, he'd built this incredible garden that he called Bloomtide on sort of this just stretch of land that was totally disused, totally kind of barren and unsightly. And there were bathtubs full of tomatoes, toilet full of violets, and he transformed this space that otherwise people would have just walked past and not thought much about into an amazing community garden. And so the film follows his kind of fight last summer to keep the garden there after the council ordered him to move. And so we follow him in that struggle. But little did I know that Seth had other struggles behind the scenes. And so the documentary kind of sort of ultimately unfolded across sort of 8 months and is still unfolding.
Yeah, I mean, it does suddenly take a turn, and by that time you're so involved with Seth that when it takes that turn, it's kind of like, oh. But obviously everyone will have to watch this to find that turn out.
Yes.
How did you find out about this?
Yeah, so I mean, my parents live in Hammersmith. I was visiting them one day, and I just kind of walked past this garden, which thousands of people walk past every day, and I was just so intrigued that it's kind of so eye-catching and bizarre, and I just wanted to know why he had built it there. And he is also an extraordinary character. He was kind of in this sort of like old straw hat and like tended to the garden, and I just wanted to learn more. I wanted to know why he built it there and kind of his process of building it. And so I gave him an interview request, and he had this old tip box that he'd sort of strapped to the gate. So I did put a £10 note in the interview request, and he got back to me quite quickly. And as we were due to start filming, he got the notice from the council telling him to move. And so the film it changed from sort of being about this gentle, quirky film about his gardening process into kind of a film about a man sort of fighting for his dreams, and also fighting for this kind of small oasis of community that he created in this kind of urban environment.
Because, I mean, it's so beautiful. It's such a lovely little spot that you've got in a busy city. I mean, it's just, don't get me started with them trying to get him out. I mean, he's quite a character, isn't he? How did you gain his trust?
Well, I had that £10 note. That
did
really
it,
helped.
did it?
No, I think. How did I gain his trust? It was kind of very gradual. Like I remember, he emailed me after it, and as we were going to start making the film, I think he just called me, and we had this amazing chat in which he sort of talked about his kind of life when he was in Barbados, growing up in Barbados, and then coming over here and what he wanted to do with the garden, everything like that. And it lasted about an hour. And I think just from just listening to him and just letting him talk and then turning up kind of day after day and filming with him, we gradually built up this rapport and just being kind of there, just to film. And also to be honest, in that chat, I know this doesn't really answer your question, but he said things in that chat where I was like, this is so good, this is so interesting, this has to go in the documentary, and then he refused to talk about it ever again.
Oh, really?
So there were, it very much, a lot of it was kind of, it was sort of on his terms, sort of responding to what Seth was doing, but I think it was just kind of like, was just showing up and always being, contactable, not kind of going dark on him, and that's it really.
Now let's talk about the council, because they intervened and then wouldn't get involved afterwards. They wouldn't talk to you, would they? Am I right in saying that?
No, they wouldn't talk to me.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it definitely was kind of I tried contacting the council and they just didn't get back to me, didn't reply. There was a man who was sort of affiliated with the council who I think Seth had sort of a rivalry behind the scenes. And so I did try getting in contact with him, but again, there was no real reply. But if I'm honest, this was a film that was made kind of, I was working at the time, so it was made in kind of early mornings, evenings, weekends. And it was sort of just me filming. So really I was following Seth. It was mostly about Seth. And after that kind of initial attempt to contact the council and get in touch with them, having no response, I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to follow Seth and see where this goes. So yeah, that's quite a rambling answer. That makes sense.
Well, not rambling at all.
Okay.
No, and was there any sort of fear of perhaps getting him in trouble when you were doing this? Was there, did you have to get any legal advice or anything?
Well, I think obviously something happens very late in the film where you realise that Seth was kind of contending with a lot more than just the council. Yeah. That wasn't something I was aware of at the time, and so in terms of the film itself, I think for me it was just sort of following what he was doing. We weren't sort of trying to get him to do anything in particular. It was just I was going to be there, kind of capturing the action as it unfolded, and. But yeah, I definitely didn't want to kind of prompt him to do anything that he didn't want to do. There was one bit in the film.
I don't think you could make Seth do something
absolutely
he didn't want to do.
Absolutely. I mean, there's one bit in the film where I was like, wouldn't it be because there was a time where we had a meeting with someone from the council who was a lovely guy, a really nice guy to be fair, and basically he was just like, you can't film this meeting, but I got to sit in on it. And after it, I sort of floated the idea to Seth that we would basically kind of do like a fantasy reconstruction of the meeting with another person who ended up being in the documentary, my friend Harry, who Seth kind of drafted in, and Seth was like, no, we're not doing that. And I was like, that's probably a good idea. You're right, we probably shouldn't do that. So that was the one time where maybe I was gonna push it a little bit, but Seth, he did what he wanted to do, and I was just along for the ride, capturing his journey. But yeah, there have been people who've asked after the film whether they thought that his struggle with the council then made him more high profile and then brought him sort of, kind of into the crosshairs of other powers.
Personally I don't think that. I mean, I think actually, that's going on to a whole load of other stuff, but there's been a witch hunt, hasn't there, basically?
Yeah.
Which has been, they've tried to keep out of the media as much as possible. But
totally.
It's disgraceful what's happened. We started on all of that. I mean, with the film, it feels like it's a really sort of lovely platform where you've shown his story and you're not trying to give answers or say this is how it's meant to be. It's just going, look, this is something that's happened and it's very human. Has it been able to open up discussions? Has it been something that's been useful for him to help with his fight as well? Yeah,
definitely. I think it was really lovely. After I sent Seth the finished cut, he just said that we'd captured a very special moment in his life, which kind of the nice thing anyone can possibly say when you make a documentary like that, which is just an obs doc following someone over a period of time. And he has sent it on to lots of people, and we've sent it to people, and we've used it kind of as a tool of crowdfunding, because to support him in his next project, he does want to, I guess a bit of a spoiler, but he does want to come back to the UK. He does want to continue what he was doing in the documentary, whether it's in that spot or a different spot, but like turning these derelict spaces into community gardens. And so we've been able to raise a bit of money for that. And as you see in the documentary, you know, he's someone who is kind of constantly, his kind of constant plans, he's always working, he's always hustling sort of outside of the system in every single way. And so money that would be pretty insignificant for most people actually would go a long way. And so that's what we're kind of doing right now. It is being used as sort of a way to raise funds, but also just kind of general support. And actually we have had sort of a special screening at the Riverside Studios, nice. But because obviously it's 10 feet from where the whole story unfolded, and that's been mostly for local residents of Hammersmith who've come and been very moved by the film and wanted to support and have donated, but also want to talk about kind of starting a sort of petition for Seth, and also continuing his work themselves. But I think everyone just, obviously what he was doing was outside of the norm, you know, technically a little bit illegal, but no one's getting hurt. And he's just sort of improving this space, and people want to do that as well, but I think they don't have the kind of the person who's doing it that they can kind of get involved. No one's going to take that leap, and he did that.
Well, he was a driving force, and it's an ecological wonderful thing. I didn't have a great word to follow that up with there, but
it's true. It is a wonderful thing.
I mean, it is. It's a wonderful thing that he was doing.
Yeah.
And you talk about the legalities. I mean, it's like some of the things that are legal in this world.
Yeah.
You're just like, okay, that's all right, but this isn't. Just bizarre.
Yeah.
I mean, I do you think there's a place for the film to go to schools? And
we'd love to take it to schools. I've been contacting kind of schools to try sort of share the film around, and and I think the thing to bear in mind as well, there was actually this young woman who did her MA thesis on Bloomtide.
Oh, really?
Around the same time, and so I actually spoke to her for her thesis, and she says in sort of 2006 the council actually released sort of this a notice or whatever saying kind of local people, if you find these disused spaces around the city or around the borough, feel free to transform them and basically do kind of what Seth was doing. Obviously that was a while ago, but so there is sort of historic backing from the council in these kind of projects, and by the end of the film you see that they compromise and they're like, all right, Seth, you can stay, and so the centre is cleared, full access, he's kind of maintained the space, and there's the garden. So it was a happy ending until obviously the final twist.
Yeah.
So I think kind of the legalities, you know, basically Seth did change council policy just by refusing to go and standing his ground, and a compromise was found that basically everyone supported.
Yeah, it's actually very inspirational.
Yeah.
I follow Seth on Instagram.
Oh, really?
Yes,
do you?
I do.
Brilliant.
Yes.
That's so great. Yes, his Instagram activity is interesting, I would say. It's interesting. Yes. Yeah.
Oh, and film festivals. Why are film festivals important for you?
Well, film festivals like SohoLIFF are so important because they connect you with other filmmakers who are sort of at similar points in their career. You make a passionate network of hardworking fellow creatives, and also it's such a stamp of quality being part of SohoLIFF. So there's no way that it can't help in sort of getting attention and funding for future projects.
Perfect. And I'm very excited to see your career unfold.
Thank you so much.
It's a brilliant film. It really is. It's one of those ones, I think about it a lot, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I'm still annoyed with the council, but, they've made their way.
The story's still unfolding, kind
it
of.
Is,
because the support for Seth is growing, and we've continued to film bits and pieces, so there might be, hopefully, a happy ending or a more positive ending coming soon.
So this is a film in motion.
This is a film in motion.
This is a film. So you need to watch this film. It's called Bloomtide. It's a brilliant film, and we still don't know what the ending is, but you could be part of that. That's pretty cool.
It's just the perfect way to put it.
It is,
That's
isn't
great.
it? So make sure you watch this. Thank you so much. You've been fabulous.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolute pleasure.